Need a dose of inspiration? We take a look at some of our recent guests who provide inspiration on this latest Delivering Marketing Joy. So as an executive, right, and because you're balancing a lot of the stuff we talked about, I feel like it's super important to try and stay motivated in the world today. So where do you find sources of inspiration?
I find sources of inspiration from all different things. I find sources of inspiration from my kids. I find sources of inspiration from books that I'm reading or shows or commercials. And I look at things that are happening outside of our world, kind of in the promotional products industry. And if it looks really cool outside of our industry, how could it look cool inside our industry too? And I get a lot of ideas or inspiration from there. If it's motivation, I find fear is one of my biggest motivators.
Okay.
Fear of not being on the forefront of new technology, not being a good leader, not having good communication skills. And so I say this all the time. I'm probably not the smartest. I'm probably not the best salesperson in the industry, but you can't outwork me. I will outwork you every day of the week. And I think that part of my personality does come from the fear of somebody newer, faster, younger, getting into the industry. They won't outwork me. They might be all those things, but they won't. And I think that that's where a lot of my motivation or that drive, that day-to-day drive comes from.
That's super fair, and I appreciate your candor on that because I think that that's one of those motivators that not everybody talks about, right? People talk about wanting to get to the top of the mountain, but they're not always willing to say. And I think that the fear of failure is a legitimate thing that Mark Cuban talks about. You work so hard because you know somebody is working really hard to try and take it away from you. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate your candor on that. I read that you were training with the idea of becoming an American Ninja Warrior. Wow, that's something. So why do you think goals like that outside of business are important?
Well, I think, to me, I don't know if it's necessarily important that they're outside of business or inside of what you do, as much as it is that you set goals and aspirations around things that light your fire. I mean, for me, it gets me going. Ever since I was little, I was the one who said always, I'm going to be a professional athlete. And athletics and competition have always been a part of my life. And I continue to make them a part of my life because when they are, I'm a better person. I've got more energy, I'm more disciplined, and I'm just happier going after things like that. And so to me, it's whatever lights your fire, making sure you continually look out the windshield instead of the rear view mirror and think about what's next with those things and what's the next challenge, what's the next adventure. And so that's what it is for me. And it actually, goals like that for me impact all areas of my life. Like I said, if I didn't have that out there, I suffer. My discipline suffers. My energy suffers. And those sort of things happen. So I think the important thing is find what is a good word is purpose. What gives you purpose and really lights your fire. That was a speaker mentioned that at the NALC event, and I thought that was right on. Find your purpose, and that is the new P of marketing. But for me, that's where a lot of my goals and aspirations start. Is what is the purpose? What's going to get me going? What puts fuel in the tank? And so that's what I would encourage people to do. That's what I think is important. Fundamentally, understand what fuels your fire, and then set some high aspirations around that.
I heard you talk about having a conversation where someone kind of took you to lunch or something, and you said, hey, what are some things that you would like to do but you can't afford to do right now? And you tell the story, you're like, you gave them 10 things right away. Why do you think it's important to think like that when you're building an organization?
Well, I think it's important to have a clear, compelling vision. And for me, a vision is a mental picture of a preferable future. And so you need to be able to think beyond today or beyond the week or even beyond the month. And you need to be able to to say and think, here's where I'd like to be in 12 months, or here's where I'd like to be in 18 months. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it's just a natural thing to be able to say, here's where I'd like to be in 12 months, 18 months, 36 months, whatever it is. And I hope that it's big enough that I don't have all the answers, that I don't have all the solutions. As a matter of fact, I don't even have all the resources. And I'm just saying, if things would fall in place in a nice way and in a fortunate way, here's where I'd like to see us in 12 months, 18 months, 36 months. And so, to me, it's just all about thinking ahead and thinking futuristic and being able to do that. Because what happens is, for me anyways, when I do that, it makes me more alert and aware to things around me. Yeah. And I see things maybe more clear, and I'm looking for things more intently and intentionally because I know that I'm going to need this. And so it just makes me more alert and more aware of what's going on around me because I know what I'm going to need, or I think I know what I'm going to need. Yeah. Doesn't always work out that way, but it just makes me more attentive and aware of what's happening. So when I meet someone like you or somebody else, or I come across an opportunity, I'm able to assess and say, okay, would this help us reach our goal for the 12 years or fulfill our vision? And so to me, it just is a big plus. Otherwise, you're just reacting to everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny when you said it, when I heard you say it the first time, you said when somebody asks you a question like that, you don't want to say, I'll get back to you, right. Because it's an opportunity. And I think what you're saying is like, hey, during that moment, it allows you to act quickly, right? Like when you Absolutely. See that opportunity. And
it speaks to the person.
Yeah.
Because if the person who is asking you that, no doubt is a resourceful person, or they wouldn't be asking you that. And I think, one of the things to be able to get somebody to contribute to your organization or maybe to what you believe in, I think you have to have clarity, and I think you have to have character and competency. And so if somebody says, hey, what are you thinking about that you don't have the resources, if you're able to share that with them, then 9 chances out of 10, what they're thinking is, this guy's been thinking about this for a while. Yeah. He probably has a plan. He probably has a strategy. He's probably not flying by the seat of his pants. And so I think that helps that other person be more willing to look at it or maybe buy in quicker and faster.
Yeah, that's a great point, because if you can answer that question quickly, they know that you've prepared. And right. So that's a great point. How do you think somebody goes about recreating themselves?
Well, I think if my team was in here, they would totally be laughing at that question, because it is something that we talk about every single week. I feel like what Dr. Phil says, is that working for you? That question all the time. Is what you're doing, is it working for you? Is it providing value? Are you learning from it? Are you growing? Are you improving? And if not, then stop. And if it is, then keep going, but continue to move that in a different direction. And so, one of the things that really helps me is on education. I'm a pretty big nerd. And so I love reading. I love webinars. I love, following and stalking people and listening to influencers. But I had the opportunity last year, this time, to actually participate in CBS's Roger Williams program. And it was sort of like a mini master's program. Wow. So it was about 6 months worth of time. And so I would work 40 hours a week, and then you go 40 hours a week to class. Wow. So it was a pretty intense program. But what was awesome about it, even though it was only 6 months, you had the opportunity to really dive into your business, hear from professors and educators, and be able to carve out and create responses to RFPs and understand your brand positioning and really take that time, because in this role, as you know, you don't spend enough time you spend more time putting out fires than you should, and not enough time planning for tomorrow. And I think reinventing ourselves, and with things changing so fast. When I started in this business, we were faxing. We were overnighting ad slicks. And now, we're doing orders in 24 hours, and you're creating artwork, and before you couldn't create artwork, now you're creating artwork, and things are just going so fast, and you never know when the next opportunity or roadblock is going to come. And so I think definitely spending the time and investing and learning is definitely going to help any entrepreneur.